Hello and welcome to the Watering Hole. Thanks for checking out this clip. Don't forget to like and subscribe because that'll make the baby Jesus cry, and I know how much you guys love making the baby Jesus cry.
Okay, want to talk about some porn?
I love porn.
Good. Because porn addiction isn't a thing. According to science. Science TM.
Science TM?
Now, this is from Psychology Today, which it's basically a blog.
It's very pop science-y.
Yeah, so like I have seen some iffy stuff in here. The study that they're talking about in this, it's got like 17 notes attached to it from like other scientists commenting on it or whatever. So like, take it with a grain of salt, but at the same time, it really, like, from what I've read from other research for making my videos, this scans as being true.
Okay, so I'm interested in in how they articulate this particular one, because I've had a lot of passive it's not studying when it's like passively listening to content, but there are a few creators I've listened to who have a lot to say about how we engage with porn. So I'm interested to see how this goes.
So this is
also, speaking of porn, Stoff dropped something horrible in the NSFW section of the Discord server, and I'm terrified of the work in progress that's there.
Did you see the screenshot of my chat before we started that I sent you?
I did see that, and I'm scared of everybody involved in anything that you are a part of.
Honestly, I have no idea what they were talking about. I just thought it needed to be shared with you. So, for context, Jay Anderson said, I was looking for ant-on-ant hippo porn, and Bing sent me here. Where's the porn? To which I replied, there's plenty in Cirrus Discord. To which they replied, ah, thanks, but my stepmom told me not to go into Cirrus Discord when she's working.
Fair. I have sent you...
Oh, there's a Gary!
Yeah.
That looks like it's basically the same as the one that Piper did before, but different angle.
It just looks painful based on what's happening to me in that picture.
No, his horn's a staging plug. So you only go in as far as you're comfortable with.
Still feels painful.
I mean, you don't have to. Okay. Porn is just artwork that people will complain about when it comes to age.
So, so this is an article I'm actually really curious about.
Okay, so porn addiction is not a diagnosable thing. It's not in the DSM, and it never has been.
Okay.
And the way this study looked at it, it's so it's a meta-analysis of other studies, but most of what they were looking at is basically self-report. Do you think you are addicted to porn? So,
but the common response to that is, I can stop whenever I want.
Well, so that's the thing, and this, like, just from how the setup is, I pretty much was able to predict the outcome here, as well as like what the objections to this would be. So essentially what it comes down to is religious people are more likely to say that yes, they are addicted to porn than non-religious people. So religiosity is more in line with whether or not you're addicted to porn than non-religiosity. Or than,
but doesn't that also doesn't that also suggest, though, that people who are religious and therefore are taught to be shameful of these behaviors and therefore shameful of addictions as vices are the most likely ones to self-report this as well? That doesn't seem to...
Yes. So...
That seems to be a statement with zero actual predictive power.
Well, no, so the reason this is interesting and the reason why this is indicative of a porn addiction not actually being a thing is that the rate at which religious people use porn is the same as non-religious people. But they have a much higher rate of people reporting that they are addicted. So it's not that porn. So if porn addiction was a real thing, you would expect, like, even people that say, no, I'm not addicted, you'd expect their rate to be higher.
I
they
don't
were
know
addicted.
if that's so. How are we defining it? How are we defining addiction? Because, like, if we're defining addiction,
my understanding is that
just,
this was mostly just self-report. So it's, if you feel you are addicted, you would say yes.
okay, that feels like there's zero.
There's a reason there are a million notes on this study.
Yeah, because that feels like the type of thing that there's like I am not a researcher. Everything that I have done is autodidact. But I still feel fairly strongly that if we are categorizing addiction as a mental or emotional dependence on a substance or activity, which is the definition that several rehab centers will use for addiction, then practically anything can end up being an addictive behavior. It means that while the concept of porn addiction may not be a super congruent concept, because it's only because it can't be divorced from any other type of activity addiction. Mm-hmm. Which means it exists, but it doesn't exist in the way that people commonly assume it exists. So that's why I was like, I'm interested to see what take they have here, because it would fly in the face of how we understand how addiction functions for most people.
Yeah, so they're looking at how people feel about their own porn use. So it says, even though many people who grew up in religious and sexually conservative households have strong negative feelings about pornography, many of those same people continue to use pornography, and then they feel guilty and ashamed of their behavior and angry at themselves and their desire to watch more.
That just makes it hotter. I don't see the problem. The shame is what makes it hot.
And then they mention that religiosity is associated with a host of other sexual difficulties. So, like, porn-related problems are just like this, if anything, just adds that to the list. So the researchers found that, first, religiousness was a strong, clear predictor of moral incongruence regarding porn use. So that's basically, I'm doing a thing that is against my own morals.
Also, like, that's... So, I'm reading along in the article as well. That's the reason why, when we're diagnosing somebody with compulsive sexual behavior disorder, your religiosity is an important factor there, because what we are trying to identify is whether this thing has a disorderly effect on your life. That's how we categorize most mental disorders anyway, is whether or not this has a negative effect on someone's life. It's like if somebody's making imaginary friends, right? If you wanted to use a more trendy term, I guess you could use tulpa. But if somebody's making imaginary friends in their brain, that's not a mental disorder. That's just somebody being really creative. It's when they start talking with those people in exclusion of the real people around them, and suddenly psychological problems develop, that now suddenly we have a disorder on our hands.
So yeah, back to the concept of porn addiction. They say, so if the concept of pornography addiction were true, then porn-related problems would go up regardless of morality as porn use goes up. So the more you use porn, the more that porn-related problems would increase. But they didn't find that. They just found that the porn-related problems went up with religiosity rather than porn use. So
fairly certain that we've...
So the issues that stem from porn use mostly come from a place of stigma.
So there is a study that's in the National Health Institute from 2017, which showed that extensive pornography use can also decrease sexual relationship satisfaction, usually among men, but it did not have a pure correlation with religiosity. So
now I did a video on this a while ago. It was in response to the What Would You Say channel, which I'm working on them again right now. And one of the studies, actually a couple of the studies that I came across while I was doing that, talked about how most research about the effects of porn go into their research assuming that they are going to find negative effects.
Okay.
But then when researchers went in with a more neutral expectation, they found more positive effects. So if you look for negative effects, they get amplified. Whereas there are positive effects of porn, like body image is actually improves among people who watch porn. Now, it does matter what kind of porn you're watching, but like it's stuff like I know if you're looking at still images that have all been photoshopped and airbrushed to make everything perfect or whatever, that might not be good for your body image. But like when you can see that the people that are performing right there, they have pimples on their butt.
Like, you get you end up feeling a lot more better.
I don't feel so bad about the pimple on my butt right now because she has a pimple on her butt and people clearly still want to look at it. And so you see all the little bodily imperfections that often get airbrushed out in the still images, and that makes you feel better about your own body. There's also the increase in availability of amateur porn. So you're just seeing normal people with normal bodies having normal people sex. And so that makes you feel better about your body because you're a normal people that has normal people sex. So yeah, no, there can be positive impacts of porn use.
I'm not denying that there are positive impacts in general. I'm just looking at the behavioral studies that we've done. We've got a bunch of them from the 80s, which I'm not really super keen on because I'm just thinking about what kind of possible issues there could be with those studies. But we do have the study from PJ Wright, or meta-analysis from PJ Wright in 2017, which did show that there was a negative association with outcomes in sexual intercourse with a partner for people who overconsume, or not overconsume, that wasn't a word used in the studies, but for a lot of people who consumed a ton of porn. I'm saying this as somebody who advocates for porn and also...
So was it a meta-analysis, or was this the study that looked at national census data over time?
This is Pornography Consumption and Satisfaction, a meta-analysis from the Human Connection Research. Like I can send this to you real quick.
No, I'm looking to see if it's the same one that I looked at when I was responding to them, because I know there were one or two that the negative impacts they found were correlated, but they never established a causal link, and so there were weird things like like they'd say porn causes divorce.
But there's no way to see a causal link there.
Yeah, but because they didn't know whether the porn came before or after the divorce use. Because if you get divorced, suddenly you don't have a sexually available partner anymore. You're going to use more porn.
Or if your partner is hyper-religious and therefore has a negative thought of what porn is, and then suddenly they find their partner having porn, did the porn cause it or did the bigotry cause it?
Just for the record, to find the video... I didn't even think about this until after I...
Are you going to look up Vice Rhino porn?
Yeah, I just typed in Vice Rhino porn, hit enter, and it was like, wait a minute. That was a stupid thing to type. So what was it called again?
So the link that I sent you originally did not take you to the... everything takes you to the blurb instead of the actual study.
God damn it, just tell me the name of the fucking study.
I just sent you a link to the study.
Yeah, but I'm looking to see if it's one that I've covered already or not.
Pornography, Consumption, and Satisfaction, a meta-analysis.
No, I did not cover that one. Okay.
Okay.
So now that puts it on my radar as something that I might want to actually read.
Okay, fair enough. It's not super long. I want to say, just looking at this, it is 21 pages long. 20 pages if you count if you don't count the preamble at the beginning.
But the preamble at the beginning is the best part.
Is it, though? That's the only part that conservatives ever read.
I was just making a foreplay joke.
Oh, because we're talking about sex. I get it now.
Yeah.
I understand now.
Okay, well, That is in the back of my head now to look at. But yeah, so porn addiction is not necessarily a thing.
Oh, there is one cool thing
do
this
we-
study found, though.
Do I want to know? What
the
did
negative
Scott
the negative associations were only encountered in men. They were not encountered in women.
do? Huh.
Women
So-
had 0 issues with satisfaction after consuming porn. It was only men where we saw this. That's kind of fascinating.
Along similar lines, one of the studies that was included in the meta-analysis talked about here, they found that pornography use predicted depression over a period of 6 years, but only in men, and only in men who disapproved of porn use.
Okay.
So it causes depression.
It was shame.
So it causes depression if you have a penis and you don't like porn to begin with, but you still use it.
Interesting. Okay.
That's the study. Only bad for believers, religion, pornography use, and sexual satisfaction among American men. Okay, I guess they didn't study women, so
Yeah, no. So
that's why it was men.
all of the negative aspects, even in the conclusion here, it points out that experimental results point to an overall negative effect of pornography on men's relational satisfaction. So just like satisfaction with their current partner, which could mean that it's not even the porn that's the issue. It's the way that they idolize their partner
Well,
as
and
being exacerbated.
this also begs the question: is it what is the arrow of causation here? Are you dissatisfied with your partner, therefore you are seeking out porn, or is your seeking out of porn what is causing you to be dissatisfied? Because those.
Yeah,
both of those are possible, and
it's very hard to
actually...
get somebody. It's very hard to get somebody who's introspective enough to know which one it is.
Yeah,
when they're answering, the only way you could really study this is with survey data. So it'd be hard to figure that out. Also, what happens if your partner is an OnlyFans creator and you are watching their porn? Because that's what Saki walked in on me doing. So, I don't know.
That's another hat. Okay. Yeah, no, that's a whole other... not can of worms, but whole other issue.
Yay, porn.
Sean Helfin says, okay, now my brain is just automatically questioning, this is how many of these studies also include men who are heavily in the closet. I don't think that would matter for this.
So if you're heavily in the closet and you are watching like gay porn, or you're like tiptoeing into it by watching, I guess somebody would be watching like really, really feminine twink porn so that their brain is like, no, the female enough for me, or some stupid shit. I guess there could be an aspect of that, but none of the studies that I've looked at have said anything about that at all.
Same here. Yeah, no, it's I don't think that's been something that's really been looked at a whole lot.
No, I've not found any studies that talk about that, because so usually the way I come across any studies like this in the first place is I'll watch like Healthy Gamer GG or some other creator who talks about something that I like and is also really, really research oriented, and they'll name drop these studies a bit and kind of like blurb on them for a sec and then move on, and then I have to go and read them later.
And then you stroke it while they read the DOI number. 10.1080/00224499.
But this one's 110.1111212108.
I'm on the only bad for believers, religion, pornography, use, and sexual satisfaction
I'm looking
among
at the
American
DOI
men.
number. I'm looking at the DOI number for pornography consumption. Look, different strokes for different folks.
We're getting our DOI numbers mixed up.
I know, right? Don't cross the DOI.
Someone's got to straighten us out.
Sometimes I pull on it so hard, I rip the skin.
Not what I was aiming for, but it works.
You know what? That's perfect. That's perfect.
Jess says it's not IP addresses, so I'm not horny.
Wait, hold
You know
on.
what?
Are you in?
Just you know what? Just take care of your 127.0.0.1.
That's IPv4 though. That's vintage. That's hot.
Yeah, it's
That's the
MILF taking care
mask.
of themselves.
That is. You realize that, like, if I said those words to most people outside of these four walls in this call, they wouldn't understand what the fuck I said.
I'm a series of 255.255.255.0 covering something long dead.
You're an IP mask?
Yeah.
That's so
Remember
cool.
the quote from earlier? A series
do
of
remember the
masks
quote from
covering something
earlier.
long dead. That was a funny joke. That was a funny joke, okay?
It was a funny joke, and it was even funnier the second time, but you know that comedy is rules of 3s and 10s, so it's not going to be funny until a third time. Fuck off.
Now, what I heard from there is I got to make a joke about being a series of masks another 8 times.
You know, that's only because you're a dad, and jokes only work if they've been done into the ground.
Mm-hmm.